everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a 1943 movie. This is called No Time for Love with Fred MacMurray, Claudette Colbert, directed by Mitchell Leisen. It's MacMurray on the cover, bare-chested, and it's applicable to the movie because he is bare-chested in quite a few scenes in No Time for Love. I've been watching some and posting videos on some very heavy, serious movies of late, and I felt it was time to watch some old Hollywood, breezy, easy to digest movies, of which No Time for Love is certainly one of those, and recently released by Colbert, who I also picked up Rise My Love. This is Colbert again with Ray Milland. And this is from a Billy Wilder screenplay, and so I'll be watching that soon and posting a video. And a few weeks ago, I did a couple other Claudette Colbert videos from Colbert releases. One is The Bride Comes Home, and this was from '35. And then the first pairing of MacMurray and Colbert in The Gilded Lily. And all three of those two movies, plus No Time for Love, were written by Claude Binion, who wrote quite a few Claudette Colbert movies. He certainly understood her comic talent and always gave her some scenes that were very, that she could really play to the hilt. And he does so again in No Time for Love. Story, Claudette Colbert plays this wealthy photographer. She is part of a kind of a set of wealthy people, rather aristocratic, sophisticated. One of her assignments, she has to descend into a tunnel that is being built that is going to connect Brooklyn and Manhattan. And in this tunnel, she encounters the sandhogs. These are the workers that are drilling through the earth to get the tunnel built. They don't have their shirts on. It's 100 degrees down there. She, of course, gets in the way, and kind of a disaster. And she's immediately attracted to this male world of bare-chested men coming from her rather effete, sophisticated world that she lives in. And of course, as this world is not only contrasted, but she, from her wealthy position, is very much attracted to the kind of He-Man that Fred MacMurray presents in these opening scenes, the Big Ape, as she calls him. As I said, Claude Binion wrote the screenplay, and there's some really good bits. I especially liked his use of chairs as a kind of prop to build up a comic motif. Fred MacMurray collapses a chair of Claudette Colbert's because he's a big brute and he's sitting in this feminine chair, and we see it later in an extraordinary dream sequence, a Salvador Dali type sequence. Alfred Hitchcock would use a similar kind of thing for much more serious purposes in Spellbound a couple years later. And in this sequence, it opens with the chair that MacMurray has demolished, and then it segs to MacMurray as what appears to be Captain Marvel saving Claudette Colbert. And purportedly, MacMurray actually was the model for Captain Marvel used by, in the late 30s, used by the artist who created him. There's other great, and then this chair motif extends to a game of musical chairs in which these sandhogs in a restaurant Claudette Colbert tries to tame them by playing musical chairs to settle an argument, and of course it descends into comic mayhem. Also, the look of the film is fantastic. Charles Lang and the Paramount look of the films of many of films of Paramount can be attributed to his great the kind of specific look that he gave to the movies he photographed, and also and this black and white print is absolutely gorgeous on this. I mean, I have untutored eyes, as I often say, but it looks fantastic to me. And Mitchell Leisen's direction, he started out as a set designer. He was very closely affiliated with Cecil B. DeMille in some of his early films before he went and became a director on his own. And you know, the movie just looks immaculate. And he would actually make blueprints of his movies, and they're at this time he was a big-time director, very popular. His movies were commercially successful. He's been largely forgotten, overshadowed by some of his earlier screenwriters who became directors, like Preston Sturges and Billy Wilder. There's some terrific supporting performances. One is by Ilka Chase, who plays Colbert's level-headed sister, who's, "What are you doing? You two, MacMurray and Colbert's characters, live in a different world. This can never work out." And there's also another performance by Richard Hayden. I appreciated this one more when I watched it the second time with the commentary. He was one of the professors in Howard Hawks' Ball of Fire a couple years before No Time for Love, and he's very familiar. You recognizable actor, and he's presented in the beginning of the film as a panty waist and sort of effeminate, but he shows great courage in the latter part of the movie, and he's really the impetus of the romance going on. And I noticed that when I watched it the second time, these little bits of business that he would add into his performance. I would say the weakness of the film is how are you actually going to, they're so different, how are you going to bring these differences, these economic differences, temperament differences, class differences, how are you going to bring it together? And it's kind of a weak contrivance, but that Binion came up with, but it's glossed over so quickly you barely even notice it. And there's a terrific commentary by Nick Pinkerton. He stresses how much this is an A picture in every sense. The tunnel sequences are amazing. The mud, and you know how they were ever able to convince MacMurray and especially Colbert to spend some. I think Pinkerton says they spend 10 days in this mud, and I mean they're just drenched in mud when they're in the tunnel sequences, which was built on the largest set on Paramount, and it's quite a convincing set. And he also Pinkerton goes into some of the appeal of this film, and some of the topicality of which we may have lost today, in the sense that, like, this building of a tunnel, this was during the years where the New Deal was financing construction all over the place. The whole infrastructure of the United States was changing. So this was a pretty familiar event, you know, that was constantly in the news. What are we building next, kind of thing. And he also Pinkerton emphasizes how this behavioral character, the behavior of the characters were much underappreciated by. He reads a review by Bosley Crowther in the New York Times, and Crowther gave it a rave review, but he points out how this kind of character behavior that Hollywood was so good at, and that the actors, and especially Colbert, MacMurray, and the writer Claude Binion, how good they were at emphasizing how character behavior is so much a part of how important it is as a part of your life, and also how important work is a part of a person's life. it's so emphasized in so many of the movies of this era, what these people did and what it meant to them, what their work meant to them. And lastly, and there's a whole lot more in Pinkerton's commentary. If you see the movie, if you buy this movie, if you're so inclined, don't miss his commentary. But he also says how Leisen worked with Colbert and MacMurray, and he would just let them go off by themselves, rehearse the scene, come up with how they wanted to play it. This is the fourth of 7 Colbert MacMurray movies. They had great chemistry together. I very much underrated Claudette. Well, I didn't think I underrated Colbert. I always liked her. I didn't realize how much I liked her, but I did underrate Fred MacMurray because he is, and he was a big star, from 1935. This is 1943. So he would rehearse. They would rehearse. And they would, until they came up with something they were real comfortable with, that they thought would work well for the audiences, and they did a fantastic job in that. So again, another movie that Claudette Colbert, Fred MacMurray, that I'm covering. When I started this channel, I never thought I'd be doing Claudette Colbert movies, but as with many of these Hollywood films, when you see them on Blu-ray and they're in just pristine copies, you really get a chance to appreciate all the talents, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. Okay, that'll wrap this video up. Thanks again for everybody who listened this far. I really do appreciate it. I'd love to hear comments. You guys take care, and I will catch you next time.